Anta namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so um are we doing chapter 17 today? Can't.
Yes, Prabhuji. We need to start 17.
Okay, wonderful. So we're on the, thank you very much. We're on the last two chapters, and this is very special. We are now talking about the divisions of faith in chapter 17. So I'll just share the slides here. So the Gita has 5 topics, and uh, is Atma, Prakriti, Karma, Kala, and Ishvara. And we've been going through these three, these 5 different topics. And in this chapter, we're looking at the divisions of faith. And Krishna is encouraging Arjuna to rise above the 3 modes to faith in Krishna. So whatever we do in this material world is a matter of our faith. What do we have faith in? Right? If we have faith in the material, we invest in the material. If we don't have faith in it, if we're not convinced by it, if we see its futility and its temporary nature, its fleeting nature, then we develop faith in something higher. And if we keep cultivating our spiritual knowledge, then eventually we rest our faith in Krishna. So this chapter talks about quite a few of those 5 topics. It talks about Prakriti, the 3 modes of material nature, rising above them. It talks about Ishvara, Krishna, faith in Krishna, and how the Atma or the soul is meant to have faith in Krishna. Faith comes in 3 modes manifested through food, sacrifice, charity, and penance. Transcend these with Om Tat Sat and give one's faith to Krishna. So, and so in this chapter, we'll talk about these different modes and their different divisions. And you must remember that how we talked about the three modes of material nature, right, in detail. So now this is, after talking about the modes of material nature, now we are going deeper into it. We are looking at, the different types of faith that develop as a result of, connection with the food, sacrifice, charity, and penance in these different modes. So this chapter talks about sambandha, which means knowledge. Faith comes in three modes manifested through food, sacrifice, charity, and penance. So this is so important, right? In our life, we think that our food, our sacrifice, charity, and penance are not so important, but they directly impact our activities in Krishna consciousness. Then we have Abhideya, the practical application. We transcend these with Om Tat Sat and give one's faith to Krishna. And then we have Prayojana, the goal. Then all that's done is everlasting, meaningful, and joyful. In the fourth chapter, 39th verse, it is said that a person faithful to a particular type of worship gradually becomes elevated to the stage of knowledge and attains the highest perfectional stage of peace and prosperity. In the 16th chapter, it is concluded that one who does not follow the principles laid down in the scriptures is called an asura, a demon. And one who follows the scriptural injunctions faithfully is called a deva or demigod. Now, if one with faith follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunctions, what is his position? This doubt of Arjuna is to be cleared by Krishna, are those who create some sort of God by selecting a human being and placing their faith in him, worship in goodness, passion, or ignorance. Do such persons attain the perfectional stage of life? Is it possible for them to be situated in real knowledge and elevate themselves to the highest perfectional stage? Do those who do not follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but who have faith in something and worship the gods and demigods and men attain success in their efforts? Arjuna is putting these questions to Krishna. So he asks some very practical questions, questions that we see, are so relevant to the state of the world. Making someone, having faith in someone who's not God, but they have faith that they're God. What is their, Arjuna asked such a reasonable question. I now, recall this. He is asking, what's their destination? They are sincere, but they're being misled by someone who is insincere. But they're sincere in putting their faith in someone who they believe to be God. What is their destination? What if someone is performing something very good that they believe to be very good, but it's not according to scriptures? And their intention is good, but they may be following the wrong scripture. They're thinking this is a scripture, but it's not a real scripture. Right? Is there going to be success in such a person's efforts? Will that person reach the ultimate destination? What about people who have faith in lower beings who are not God, but demigods or more powerful beings? So what do they, where do they reach? So here's now the connection between chapter 16 and chapter 17. In chapter 16, we talked about the divine nature, faithfully following Shastra. In chapter 7, and we also talked about the demoniac nature, no faith in Shastra. This we found was a fundamental difference between the divine and the demoniac. Because the divine also have faults, we said. Like the demigods, they're also not perfect. The Danavas are sometimes uh, very exalted, but they also are not perfect. And generally they're not so exalted, but sometimes they are. So what is then the fundamental difference? One of them is still trying to follow the right path. They may have not made it, but they're trying to follow the path given by Krishna. The other is inimical to Krishna. They don't have faith in Krishna's words as the Shastra. Chapter 17 describes one who with faith follows something other than the Shastra. So, what is a destination of someone who is faithful but does so in the wrong way, doesn't follow Shastra? Just like Osama bin Laden, now he's kind of a historical figure, but some years back he was front and center, very important figure. And he is faithful in his belief in Allah, right? So he has faith in God. He is thinking he's doing God's work, but he's not doing it according to the scriptures. And so, though he is faithful, his faith is not properly situated. So, what happens to one who follows something other than Shastra? Krishna describes here that there are three types of faith corresponding to and evolving from the three modes of material nature. Acts performed by those whose faith is in passion and ignorance yield only impermanent material results, whereas acts performed in goodness, in accord with scriptural injunctions, purify the heart and lead to pure faith in Lord Krishna and devotion to Him. So nice. In the previous chapter, Krishna describes two extremes, the divine and the demoniac. It is clear, however, that each of us have many faces and are not necessarily one or the other. Life is never black or white, but usually different shades of gray. The faces that we present on a daily basis reveal something about our faith, the things we trust, pursue, and place value upon. And they say, what makes him tick? Chapter 17 describes how a person's affiliation to a particular mode will determine the type of faith they have. So, this is a fact. This is something very interesting, um, that the face is considered the index of the mind. Prabhupada says that the face is the index of the mind. And in this world, we find so many different faces. People have different, such a great variety. We sometimes may reflect on this, sometimes we don't. We forget about it. But people have so many different types of faces, so differently, they're completely different. Like, in one part of the world, another part of the world. Yes, it's the same set of eyes, nose, and smile, but so much variety within that. So how is that variety formed? That is formed based upon the combination of a certain set of gunas, which are based upon our interests, the qualities that we develop, our proclivities, our interests. So this is the importance of how Prabhupada says the face is the index of the mind. Whatever our mind is in our mind will be reflected and made known in the face. And this FACE is an acronym also that nicely summarizes this entire chapter. The F stands for faith. Text 1 through 13, Krishna talks about faith. Everyone has faith. To have faith means to see opportunity, reward, and value in something. Thus, according to one's faith, one identifies objects of value and begins to engage with them in different ways. In accordance with this, individuals adopt worldviews, lifestyles, and character traits. Krishna begins a discussion of this by giving examples of diet and sacrifices. So our faith is manifest in things of this world, and Krishna gives examples of that. Then there's austerities. Text 14 to 19. Austerity is required in order to achieve anything in this world. People who place faith in different things perform different austerities in life. Krishna explains beneficial austerities pertaining to the body, mind, and words, and also the varying motivations with which one may perform them. Then we have charity, text 20 to 22. Charity should be given out of duty, without expectation of return, at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person. The ultimate charity is to help someone reawaken their spirituality. This will permanently solve all their problems. And finally, Krishna speaks about the enjoyer of everything. Om Tat Sat. Krishna is the enjoyer of everything. If our sacrifices, penance, and austerities are dedicated for his pleasure, then they yield permanent benefit and ultimate freedom. Such activities transcend the three modes of material nature and are liberating rather than entangling. Yes. So after speaking about these things, he then gives the final, which is very common in Krishna's discussion in the Bhagavad Gita. In the final verses, he'll give the final punch that, this is all good, and we must progress in our faith, austerities, and charity up through the modes. But the final is that we dedicate all of these things to Krishna. And then the benefit is eternal. We get freedom and they liberate us rather than entangling us. So now, text 1 through 6, types of conditioned faith. Arjuna asks, you mentioned that those who disregard the Vedas and do not worship God become demoniac, which is the last chapter, chapter 16. What about those who do some kind of worship, but also disregard the Vedas? In chapter 16, the divine and demoniac were distinguished by whether or not they follow scripture. Here, Arjuna asks about those who apparently don't fit into either category. Either they have studied the scriptures, but instead worship according to some worldly calculation, or do not take the trouble to understand the scriptures and worship according to local or family tradition. Arjuna wants to know whether such persons are in goodness, passion, or ignorance. Further, he wants to know the relationship between faith and following the scriptures. Is faith alone enough? So, such nice questions as we discussed. So, just in our last chapter, this question came up that, is it black or white? Are you have only divine people, demoniac people? What about in the middle? So here, that exactly Krishna is addressing. And this question, is faith alone enough, or do we need guidance? Do we need knowledge? Does that faith need to be properly applied? According to Baladevi Vibhushan, these texts describe persons who have given up following the scripture out of laziness or because it is too troublesome, but still worship demigods. So what does Krishna say? If one does not follow the Vedas, he will follow his natural instinct, which will be either in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. When one does not base his faith in Shastric injunctions, his faith becomes based upon his own mentality, which is a product of his particular conditioning by the modes. We choose our object of faith according to our nature, which comes from our previous lives, and our mind or heart, which will be addressed in text 3. Simply acting in faith according to our nature and mind will not bring us to perfection. While it is possible to choose to change our modes, such a change can only take place with knowledge gained from one who knows a genuine guru. So, uh, so this is the thing that um, uh, the whole idea, the movement of new age, free spirituality, follow your own path, follow your heart. That's good. At least it's getting people to get spiritual. But if you just follow your heart, if you're in the mode of ignorance, you're going to do something more in the mode of ignorance. And this is what Krishna is saying. Well, Krishna speaks in such, always, you could say, broad-minded ways, in non-sectarian ways. He says, sure, you can follow your own path, but then it's your choice. If you're in the mode of goodness, you'll be in goodness, passion, and ignorance. But if you want the transcendental path, then follow a genuine guru. Follow my path in the scriptures. Just like Krishna says the same thing in terms of food, right? He never says, don't eat meat. But he says, look, if you eat meat, meat is naturally in the mode of ignorance. So our consciousness will also become in the mode of ignorance if we eat meat. Same thing here, he's saying. You don't have to have faith in the scriptures. Do what you like to do, but then your faith will be based upon your mind. And our mind is generally not in the mode of goodness. Since the living entity is in contact with material nature, he acquires different types of mentality according to his association with the material modes. But this nature can be changed if one associates with a bona fide spiritual master and abides by his rules and the scriptures. Gradually, one can change his position from ignorance to goodness or from passion to goodness. So only when we associate with that which is in the transcendental mode or in the mode of goodness can we rise to that level. If one wants, he can develop by practice the mode of goodness and thus defeat the modes of ignorance and passion. One can similarly develop the mode of passion and defeat goodness and ignorance. Or one can develop the mode of ignorance and defeat goodness and passion. Although there are these material modes of material nature, these three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness. And by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called the Vasudeva state, a state in which one can understand the science of God. His faith will be characterized by one of these three modes. Text 3. Faith itself is of the mode of goodness, but the object of faith is of ignorance, passion, or goodness. Wood, smoke, and fire all contain fire, but only fire is useful for cooking. In ignorance, there may be some faith, but it is not useful. In passion, there's indication of spiritual life, just like smoke indicates fire. But again, it is not useful. Only when there's fire can one cook, etc. In a similar way, one who wants to make spiritual advancement must come to the mode of goodness in behavior. A sadhu is known by behavior. The word Shraddha or faith is very significant in this verse. Shraddha or faith originally comes out of the mode of goodness. One's faith may be in a demigod or some created god or some mental concoction. One's strong faith is supposed to be productive of works of material goodness. But in material conditional life, no works are completely purified. They are mixed. They are not in pure goodness. Pure goodness is transcendental. In purified goodness, one can understand the real nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As long as one's faith is not completely in purified goodness, the faith is subject to contamination by any of the modes of material nature. The contaminated modes of material nature expand to the heart. So, very important point here that's being mentioned, that the nature of the mode of goodness in this world is that one cannot sustain it. It says, look, I'm a good person. I stay good in goodness. I'm calm. I'm peaceful. I'm environmentally friendly, this, that. True, but then when something agitating comes, we'll become angry. That goodness will not stay. Simply on the material platform, through material solutions, that goodness will not stay. Goodness stays when it is Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. It can only be on the mode of goodness when it is on the transcendental stage. When we are on the transcendental stage, why that is called goodness, or why goodness is called transcendental, because it's sustained goodness. That is pure goodness. And that's what is being said here, that unless one's completely purified in heart, that faith will get contaminated and we'll start having faith in all these material things. We'll lose our Krishna consciousness, we'll lose our faith in what is actually tangible and real. And this is why in the previous slide, Srila Prabhupada's analogy, that unless you take fire in the form of fire, it's not useful. Fire in the form of ashes or simply wood will not heat your food, because it does not carry that potency. The contaminated modes of material nature expand to the heart. Therefore, according to the position of the heart in contact with a particular mode of material nature, one's faith is established. It should be understood that if one's heart is in the mode of goodness, his faith is also in the mode of goodness. If his heart is in the mode of passion, his faith is also in the mode of passion. And if his heart is in the mode of darkness, illusion, his faith is also thus contaminated. Thus we find different types of faith in this world, and there are different types of religions, due to different types of faith. The real principle of religious faith is situated in the mode of pure goodness. But because the heart is tainted, we find different types of religious principles. And now Krishna talks about worship in the modes. Worship can be to different gods and demigods. He's answering Arjuna's question about, look, what if someone has faith, but they're misled? Just like many people in India, they are worshiping some yogis as God. Satya Sai Baba, right, is one such yogi who's a great yogi, but they consider him to be God, though he is not God. He's not mentioned in the scriptures. He's not, showing the characteristics of God. Uh, he's just a mystic. He can do some magic. But people mistake him and they are very, very faithful. So, what is the nature of their faith and their worship? And they also worship him. So, in some places, such as Ishopanishad, the worship of demigods is described as being in ignorance. Clearly, it is not only the object of worship, but also the mentality and motive, as there are demons in ignorance who worship demigods. Many persons in modern society worship some political leader, entertainer, and so forth. There are also persons who worship evil spirits and perform demoniac rituals to get some powers and wealth. Sometimes they have sexual rituals as part of their worship. So then Krishna speaks about there's worship in different modes of nature. When it's in the mode of ignorance, it's the worship of the ghosts and spirits. In Rajas, one is worshiping the demons. Even in the mode of passion, I mean, uh, it's worship of demons. Then Sattva, worship of the demigods. And when it's transcendental, when it's on the level of actual love and devotion, it is personal God, Krishna. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, um, so uh, bhakti can only be applied to God, to Krishna. That's a point that's made again and again in all scriptures. Because even when we worship a demigod in the mode of goodness, it's still a business relationship. Why would you worship a demigod? If they're not God, why do you worship a demigod? Because you want something from them. And when you worship them, they give you something. So ultimately, though it may seem like bhakti, it's ultimately based upon the fruit. But when you worship Krishna, a personal God, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it can be unalloyed devotion, simply out of love. Now, one more point here. Why the difference? In Ishopanishad, it says, some of you have read it, some of you will be reading it soon, that worship of the demigods is in ignorance. Some of them say, here it's being said, worship of the demigods is in goodness. So here it's being described. It can also depend on the mentality and the motive, right? So Krishna also says in the Gita that one who worships the demigods does so abhidipurvakam, and alpamedasam, those who are doing so wrongly or of their small intelligence, they worship the demigods. So it's a form of ignorance, right? If you worship someone as a president, you respect them as a president, and they're not the president. They're not God, but you call them God, Bhagavan. You use that term for them, which people often do for the demigods, then that is ignorance. So in that sense, it's ignorance. But because the demigods are still devotees and they're pious, if a person is worshiping the demigods for something even material, it can be in the mode of goodness, because one is connecting with the mode of goodness, which the demigods reside in the mode of goodness. And so it's not like, worshiping demons and ghosts and spirits. Those who undergo severe austerities and penances, not recommended in the scriptures. So here we see this man sitting on a bed of nails. This is ignorance in the mode of austerities in the mode of ignorance, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish, and who torture the material elements of the body, as well as the supersoul dwelling within, are to be known as demons. So one is thinking, this person may be thinking that I'm doing this austerity to please God. I'm doing this austerity to become, highly, highly spiritually elevated. But actually, um, why would God be pleased if we torture our body? Right? So they're torturing their body unnecessarily, not based upon scriptures. Like sometimes we also fast, and a 24-hour fast can very much feel like torture. But that's something that's written in the scriptures. One is doing it directly for Krishna to focus the mind on Krishna. But even there, Prabhupada says that don't fast 24 hours like a nirjal fast if all day you're going to think about food. Because the purpose of fasting is to think about Krishna. Right? It's devotion, it's bhakti. And if the austerity is so difficult for a person that the devotion goes away, then Prabhupada says don't do it for this same purpose. That our goal is not just austerity, our goal is thinking of Krishna, loving Krishna. And fasting gives us more time to do that. You don't have to worry about food, you don't have to cook food. Like you significantly get a much larger chunk of time in the day when a person is fasting. So that is the purpose. By taking up austerities and practices not given in the scripture, one harms the body and gives displeasure to the Lord who dwells within. Devotees need to remember that their body is actually Krishna's property and should be cared for in a way that pleases the Lord. The fate of demons, however austere they may appear, has already been explained in chapters 9 and 16. So, the famous pastor of Sanatana Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sanatana Goswami at one point developed boils on his body. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loved him so much. He loved Sanatana Goswami. He was such a nice devotee. So he would embrace Sanatana Goswami. He was one of the great Goswamis of Vrindavan, one of the great acharyas. And so when Sanatana Goswami was meeting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would resist and say to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please do not embrace me. I don't like this. But Lord Chaitanya would embrace him. And then Sanatana Goswami, out of his very elevated devotion, we cannot imitate this, and his humility, he thought, better I end my life, because then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will not embrace my body. Then we will, then Krishna, will not be disturbed by my oozing. So he decides that when the Rath Yatra happens of Lord Jagannath, I will prostrate myself in front of the wheels of Lord Jagannath, and that will be my end. So I will give up my life in this way. Some people do this every year, and it's not according to scriptures, right? It's not recommended. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being the all-pervasive Lord, he could understand Sanatana Goswami's intention. And when he understood his intention, the next day, Lord Chaitanya goes to Sanatana Goswami and he chastises him. And he says, who do you think you are? He says, you think that this body of yours is yours, and it is your decision when you can end it. But this body belongs to me. And I've planned so many things. I plan to accomplish so many things through this body, through you. You will accomplish so many of my work. So what right? How do you have the audacity to give up your life? And this is why in our scriptures, suicide is considered to be very sinful, because one cannot destroy something that does not belong to oneself. This body belongs to Krishna. So what right do we have to give it up? So austerity that harms the body harms something that belongs to Krishna. And that's why, even though it's austerity, it's considered to be in the mode of goodness, not in the divine realm, because that is done to harm the body. Such demonstrations are insults to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they're enacted in disobedience to the Vedic scriptural injunctions. There's this beautiful verse, Shruti Smriti Purana, the Pancharatra Vidim Vina, Ekantike Hare Bhakti Utpataye Kalpate. Such worship of Krishna, such service to Krishna that is done without the guidance of the scriptures simply becomes an unnecessary disturbance to society. Utpataye kalpate. It's simply it doesn't please anyone, it doesn't do anything. It in fact just causes distress to the performer. A wonderful example of this is the story of Bharat Maharaj, which is shown in this image. Some devotees of Mother Kali, of Durga Devi, felt that offering human flesh to Kali would be the way to worship her, the most grand way of worshiping her. They were offering goats, and that's very commonly done, and animals. I thought, well, if we really want to become powerful and the greatest worshiper of Durga, then why not make it even better? And like, if we really want to make the greatest offering, and normally we're offering animal flesh, let's offer human flesh. And then she'll be really happy with us because she'll get to eat the flesh of a human. Now, what they don't know, Durga Devi is a great devotee of Krishna, and she doesn't want any flesh. There's only the allowance of offering animal flesh as a way of purifying the flesh eater so that they will reduce the frequency of their meat eating. Every time if you have to offer it and perform a sacrifice to Mother Kali before taking it, then it won't be like the factory processing, what we find here in this Kali Yuga time. So bad. And so they thought um, that she's interested in blood and meat, but she's not interested. She tolerates this out of her compassion to regulate those whose senses are unregulated. So one fine occasion, these worshippers of Durga bound up Bharat Maharaj, who at this time was known as Jad Bharat, because he was reborn in the material world, and because he made a mistake in his last life, he got attached to the deer. He said, in this life, I won't get attached to anything. So he behaved like a deaf and dumb man. And he simply was absorbed always in Krishna. And so these dacoits, they thought, oh, this is a deaf and dumb person. He would be a perfect offering for Kali, because generally people like this are not cared for so much in society. So if he goes missing, people will be like, oh, we don't know where he went. Maybe he got lost because he's a dumb person or something. And and there's less likely for them to get caught, etc. So they captured Jad Bharat, who externally was behaving like a deaf and dumb person, but internally he was a great devotee of the Lord. And they put him up on the sacrificial altar, and they were just about to chop off his head and offer it to Kali. But seeing that this was a great devotee, this was her great devotee, the deity of Kali breaks. She jumps out, and instead of Jad Bharat's head being chopped off, she chops off all the heads of these persons who are about to kill a great devotee of the Lord. So the message here is that whatever we do, our worship, all these activities, it must be done in a way that is pleasurable to Krishna. Just like when we love someone and we need to offer them something, to offer them love, or we want to love them, then we need to love them their way. Right? We can't expect that they will love us our way. In the same way, when we worship Krishna, we have to worship him his way, not our way. Right? If it's my wife's birthday and I offer her a chainsaw and a hammer with some tools and all these things, then she'll be like, "Why did you give me this gift? I don't have really much use for it, and it seems more of a gift for yourself than for me." Right? So in the same way, Krishna's like that. He doesn't want any meat. The demigods are like that. They don't want any meat. They don't want any sinful activities. So if we, in the name of worship, offer them these things, then we're just doing it for ourselves. We're offering it for ourselves, not for them, because we want it. And we're trying to justify that mode of ignorance and passion by making it an offering, when in fact it is not. So it has to be done Krishna's way. Krishna's way is described in the scriptures. Then we have texts 7 to 21, which are the symptoms of conditioned faith. Text 7 to 22, sorry, 7 to 22. After discussing different kinds of faith in relation to the modes, Krishna goes on to discuss food, sacrifice, charity, and austerity. In relation to them, by considering these aspects of a person's life, one can further understand the modes of their faith also. We should remember, however, that each conditioned soul is influenced by a subtle and interwoven combination of modes. One who can understand which modes eating, yajna, austerities, and charity are in are wise. Those who cannot discriminate are foolish. So here Krishna is describing how one can understand the modes affecting a person's faith, or what is the level of their faith, by the symptoms of their eating, sacrifice, austerity, and charity, right? So how do you know a person and what their faith is in? Is by their symptoms. How do you know a disease? Is by its characteristics, its symptoms. So similarly, how do you know if a person is Krishna conscious or not, or what their mindset is? It's by their activities, by their behavior, by observing their interests. And that is how we identify a Vaishnava. The chapter started with this as well. So unless a devotee is an avadhuta, a super highly elevated devotee, which anyway we are not able to identify and judge, uh, we must understand that the that all of these things, that any devotee is a devotee only if they exhibit the symptoms of a devotee, right? One cannot say, I have, great love for God, but I'm smoking a cigarette every night and drinking every night. Now, the symptoms must match the level of advancement. So now Krishna starts giving specific examples. Food in the modes. This is what I was making the point, that Krishna doesn't tell us what is, allowable or not. Rather, he says there are different modes of nature. Whatever nature you are attracted to, you will get those qualities, and particularly whatever foods you are attracted to, that's the modes that will affect you. So food in sattva and goodness increase the duration of our life. So this is the quality, the symptom by which food in the mode of goodness is known. They purify one's existence. They give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. They're juicy, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Please note that this is not burning to the heart, but pleasing to the heart. Right? When food is in the mode of goodness, it's actually very pleasing. But we are so conditioned. We want to take that pleasing food and make it burning. So that is because of our conditioning. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur bought with money that was earned purely, cooked purely, and served in a pure place, by pure people. Sattva refers to virtue, which brings steadiness of mind, enabling one to remain undisturbed in the face of sorrow. Agreeable means to the stomach and the eye, and Snigha means having some oil while not excessively fatty. So also the whole raw food movement is okay, but also it's not exactly what Krishna here is saying, as explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. We can use some oil, a little, oil, ghee, all these things, because that um, is natural, right? We are naturally made to eat cooked food. That's why, majority of the world population eats cooked food. There's nothing wrong with that. It should not be, just something so distasteful we don't want to eat it. It must be tasty, but not in rajas or tamas. What is rajas? It is too bitter, too sour, salty, too hot, pungent, dry, cause distress, misery, and disease. So I had one good friend, he was a devotee friend, and I went to his home one time to have prasad, and the they served us, sabji, I think chapatis and rice, but a very small amount of sabji because the sabji was so hot. I remember that it was hotter than pickle, and um and they packed me this much of the sabji, and it lasted me like a week. I was eating it like pickle, and even as pickle, it was too hot. But they were eating it like sabji, like spoonfuls and all these things. So I was like really surprised. It's like, how can one live after eating this? It's so hot. And the next year I came back, visited their home. Then also they're so hospitable, so nice, everything about them so wonderful. And I asked them um, that how are you, all these things, and they said yes, please come eat prasad. So we had prasadam, and this time it was completely boiled vegetables, boiled rice, and that's it. Just with a little bit of salt, but no spices, nothing. So I asked my friend, I said, how was it last year? You were eating so much spicy, and now it's just steamed vegetables. He said, yes. I was getting some stomach pain. I went to my doctor, and he said, your entire lining inside your stomach is burnt. You've lost, and you're getting almost holes in your stomach or ulcers in your stomach. So now he's put me on a strict diet for a minimum of 6 months to a year. I'll just eat super simple, boiled, and nothing spicy. So why? Because this is the thing that food like this causes distress and misery and disease, right? On the other hand, if from the beginning we're eating food in the mode of goodness, then later on we will not have to deal with the effects of that passionate food, which may cause disease in the body. And finally, food in tamas is prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten. So it's old food. It's tasteless, decomposed, and putrid. And um, it may be also remnants of someone else and untouchable things. So, some countries they eat insects. Not countries, I shouldn't say the country doesn't eat insects, but in some countries, people eat insects. And I've actually gone, I recently a place in America, and there the gift shop was selling, this is honest truth, it was something like cockroach a crunch. It was a snack, and you could actually see their backs and shells and their legs. It was like in a packet, like you have, um, peanuts in a packet. It was like cockroaches. They were advertising it as very a good high protein alternative to fatty foods because it's all protein. These insects, and then there's also one which is a grasshopper crunch, something like that. And they had fried these insects in hot oil, put them in a packet, and were selling them. Apparently, it's legal. And why not? You can eat everything, right? So, in the same way, you find in other countries, some countries, it's a delicacy to eat snakes. all sorts of amazing items. So this is all foods in the mode of ignorance. And yes, okay. Oh, my screen went. Oh no, here it is. So I would flip the screen here. Here we go. Okay. And then finally, we have food above the modes. This is even better than goodness. It's not just healthy, wholesome, juicy that brings pleasure to the heart. But what is this food? This food is food offered to Krishna. Yagya Shishtashna Santo Muchyante Sarvakil Vishaya Bhunjate Te Tavagam Papa Ye Pachantyatma Karana. The Santas, Yagya Shishtasana Santo, Muchyante, they are liberated from all bondage because they eat food, Krishna says, which is first offered for sacrifice, meaning they eat food which has been first offered to Krishna. What is Prabhupada's mission? He writes in this purport, fatty foods, as mentioned in the 8th verse, has no connection with animal fat. It is available in the form of milk, which is the most wonderful of all foods. Milk, butter, cheese, and similar products give animal fat in a form which rules out any need for the killing of innocent creatures. It is only through brute mentality that this killing goes on. See, Prabhupada is enlightening the whole world. The civilized method of obtaining needed fat is by milk. The civilized method of obtaining needed fat is by milk. Slaughter is the way of subhumans. Prabhupada is being heavy. Slaughter is the way of subhumans. So, very key point here that Prabhupada says the cow is naturally giving its blood in the form of milk. It's giving the most valuable essence of its life, right? It's giving its strength away, just like when we do, blood donations. If you do a few bottles after that, you'll feel really tired because you're giving your blood to someone else. So it works so hard, like a breastfeeding mother. They are very exhausted because all the time, because it takes so much energy to produce the milk. And when the child drinks the milk, it sucks that milk from their body because it takes so much energy to build and offer that milk, which the cow is doing freely out of love for the human. This is why they're chewing all day, and eating all day, because they are producing this milk naturally. So naturally, the cow is giving it. It's giving even what is better than blood in the form of milk. And we're eating it also, we're drinking it also, we're benefiting it from it also. But then he says the world is so ungrateful that still, even after the cow voluntarily gives the milk, we want to kill the cow and eat its flesh and blood in a way that is so unnatural and unkind to that animal. Okay, and that's why Prabhupada started so many farm communities so people can live in harmony with these animals like the cows, and people will not, um, you know, uh, uh, they'll give up these types of habits, come back to Krishna. Okay, so I'll stop here. This was, if a person has a relationship with an animal, then it's very hard for them to eat that animal. This is a fact. So in our effort to in the fight against meat eating, farm communities plays a big role because people, if they connect with the animals, they will not want to kill them. It's because we desensitize ourselves, we dehumanize that living being that we can kill the living being. Otherwise, we cannot. No one can, if they love their dog, no one can kill their dog and eat it. Only if there's a life and death emergency and they're starving to death, maybe they'll do it. But otherwise, they cannot. So what's lacking in society is humans' relationship with animals, especially cows. And if that is there, then people will not, be able to engage in these activities. Okay, thank you. We talked about the general framework of faith in the three modes, and then we spoke about the first category among the three, which is food in the three modes of material nature. Okay. Yashoda Vatsala Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
These modes are like taking us away from so many things. And when you talked about the animal and the cow form, I remembered the wonderful initiative by His Grace Neil Madhav Prabhu here in Baltimore area.
Mm. Mm.
And he has set up now a very big cow farm.
Mm.
And it's still in progress, we are still developing there. And couple of days ago I was just trying to find if there is any cow near to my house. My
Mm.
father had we had our secondary members from my father, and then we make a go grass, right? We
Mm.
create a plate for cow also to be
Ah,
given to the cow. And I
interesting.
found one patting patting farm, animal patting farm.
Uh-huh.
So where our even Indian Gir cows, I saw their photos and all.
Wow.
So I'll be trying to go there, but yeah, as you rightly said, till the time we get at least little closer to these animals, we should not. I mean, we won't feel that love and their feelings, right? So the
Mm.
patting is another thing, probably. We do that. I think at New Vrindavan also there is a cow petting
Yes, yes,
uh, thing is done. So
yes.
yeah, thanks for reminding all that, like how we can feel. And there is some scientific study that has been done which says that when you do cow petting, it
Mm.
reduces your blood pressure also. It normalizes our blood pressure for a good
Wow.
amount of time without taking any medicines. Haribol.
Whoa. So nice. This is such a nice way. Like right now, society, you see people are suffering so much, uh, from depression and all these different things, and hypertension, stress, all these things. And that's probably in the immediate, it's from the disconnection from nature, the land, and specifically the animals, the cows. And you're right, they say if you do go seva, if you worship and serve the cows, whatever disease is in the body, generally speaking, gets cured because the cow can feel the energy of the cow taker. And accordingly, the cow will produce a milk that will be the medicine for that disease. They'll eat this grass needed and they'll make a milk which is exactly the cure of that disease. So in Vedic times, they didn't need any doctor or anything like that for most things because they would just drink milk. And the doctor was the cow at home, like a mother. She knew exactly what her child needed, and she would produce milk accordingly. And when people pet cows, like you're saying, they understand how gentle this animal is, how sweet they are. Here in America, they've been like kind of cartoonized, just the cow with the big, cow face and all these things. And when you drive down, you see because they've been injected by so many hormones and antibiotics, they're they don't look as loving and pleasing, but rather very distressed. But when we are actually in touch with cows that are loved, people see, wow, they're such amazing persons. And yes, and that's what different projects are trying to do. And thank you for sharing your experience on that. We should also find, every one of us should find the local farm, cows, something next to us so we can connect as devotees with the cows. Thank you, Prabhu.
Haribol, thank you so much.
Bhavya?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam. Thank you
Right.
for this class. So I think this chapter was ended up being so relevant to something that happened at the LA Rath Yatra last weekend. So I think in the very beginning, there were a few people of the Christian faith. I think they were, I think, loudly chastising. I don't remember the exact words, but they
Yes.
are doing something that they think is right based on what they've been taught. So in this situation, are they, so you would say, would you say that their faith is in the mode of ignorance? Is that appropriate?
Yes, because it's devotional service mixed with anger, right? So they're
Mm,
most of them, like they're angrily, I've been to LA Ratiyata so many times, and they have that speaker phone, and they're cursing the
mm,
deity,
yeah.
there's idols, they're cursing the devotees. And so they are doing it because they are thinking they're serving God, right? So the intention is actually service to God.
Mm,
And this is their faith, and their faith, like you're saying, may even be telling them, members of their
mm,
faith, that, you should fight against the heathens and all these things. But
mm,
the people telling them and they themselves are operating on the platform of anger,
mm,
that these people are bad, we are good, and therefore it is mixed. So it's devotional service, like Kapil Dev says in the Bhagavatam, Canto 3, he talks about devotional service in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So this would be faith or devotion in the mode of ignorance, because it's overpowered by the mode of anger, by anger.
mm.
Yes.
So, Prabhuji,
Uh,
in addition to that, those
Mm.
people you will see, like I've been seeing, I used to live there earlier, 7, 8 years ago, 7 years ago. And then they used to come in our line for prasadam.
Yes, no one can resist prasad, right? Of course, he's bad people. Okay, let's eat their food. Mm.
They're getting Krishna's mercy despite, speaking against. But
Yes.
yeah. So Prabhu, another follow-up question to that is, so I guess in Kali Yuga, we know one person is either demoniac or divine. We are kind of on the spectrum, like we are somewhere on the spectrum, right?
Yes.
So in a situation like this, you are following your scriptures
Mm.
and you're having an angry outburst, but you think you're doing the right thing. Are you
Mm.
acting on your divine qualities or are you acting on your demoniac qualities in this situation? It's kind of hard to tell.
Mm. Yes. And what was the situation again?
So this situation where these individuals of the Christian faith, they are trying and disrupting,
Yes. It's the same
this Rath
situation.
Yatra. Yeah, same situation.
Yes. Yes. Well, most of us see, even in our own, us, as devotees, Hare Krishna devotees, like when we start Krishna consciousness, our lower modes are not immediately purified, right?
Mm,
So the like Prabhupada describes, we have two dogs. We have the divine dog and we have the demoniac dog, and like our demoniac, you could say our material dog is hankering, give me this, give me sensual pleasure, give me this, that. And our good dog says, no, no, let's go to Krishna, and Krishna is the source. So in the beginning, the bad dog generally overpowers the good dog, right? So we have that good
mm,
nature in us, but then it's just like the anger takes over and our desires take over, and we start feeding the bad dog rather than the good dog. And
mm,
as we advance in spiritual life, we start feeding the good dog and ignoring the bad dog. So in
mm.
this case, no, not all Christians are on the streets, not all of even their members are there, but a few of
Yeah.
them have come because their bad dog, the demoniac nature, has overcome or overpowered their good dog,
Mm,
right? So I
mm.
think that was your question, right? That is this divine or is this demoniac?
Mm. Yeah,
Yes.
because technically they are following their scriptural injunctions. So
No,
from their perspective, they're doing what is divine, but it looks
no,
different to us, right? So that's what I was asking.
yes and no, but the thing is that not all members of their faith, not
Mm,
all Christians are behaving that way, right?
exactly.
So
Yeah.
there's not just that they're following their faith, but they're
Mm,
following their nature in their faith.
Ah.
Even within, very fanatical, let's say Baptist communities, there's always some who, their faith might be really strong, but they appreciate other religious traditions. They believe, God is the path of peace and love, and they won't harm anyone or be aggressive towards anyone. So that is our personal choice. The question is, why are they being attracted to that religious process, that specific mode of religious practice, when they have options for others? And that's because of their particular faith and mode of nature. And within Islam, for example, so within Christianity also, there's some very radical movements and people, some more liberal. So yeah, someone might be born in a place where, you must be radical, otherwise your head is cut off. So that's a different situation. That's why, one is obliged to. What can one do? Even in that, you can be the gentler one. You can be the one with the kindness and heart, even in very extreme circumstances. Even like, for example, the Nazis, when they were torturing the Jews, and this was their religion. It was literally a religious. It became their religion, their nationalism. But even within that, some of the Nazis were feeling bad for the Jews. They're like, no, we shouldn't put them through this Holocaust. It's not. And secretly, they were letting them escape. So, in any religious tradition, there are some who are, very much in the mode of ignorance and passion, some more in the mode of goodness. Of course, this was an extreme example, but in the major world religious traditions, everyone knows. I was speaking to some Christians, and they were very pious Christians, and they said, after practicing Christianity for a long time, we just felt in our heart that it was a very clear feeling that a non-vegetarian diet was not compatible with love for God. Their names were Rex and Darlene, actual people, and they met us even before meeting us vegetarian. They said, just through our Christian faith, we figured out that, this diet cannot be a godly diet where we're eating meat, especially meat that's factory processed and is not respectful to the animal. How they're also children of God. How can this be? And then they're saying, that's why we really appreciate your diet and we really appreciate your principles. And they were practicing Christians from a very, you could say, very strong and active Christian community, like these people. But they chose the path of thoughtfulness and goodness.
Right.
So yes.
Yeah, that's so true. And within the same week, I had completely opposite experiences. Like just 2 days ago, I met somebody. He is from the Orthodox Church, and he was saying that we were talking about what our hobbies are, and he was saying, "Oh, I like to read about the saints." So I was like, "That is it's so similar to something we do in our tradition as well, right?" So so they are acting, their faith is in the mode of goodness, is right. So you can
Yes.
exist on on all ends of the spectrum.
Yes. No, so nice what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, um, what a wonderful, wonderful comment you made. Like, and they make a lot of advancement like this when they read about their saints, many of whom were actually very godly devotees, like Francis of Assisi, and they were always taking the name of God. So they are seeking the more transcendental / mode of goodness aspects of their religion. Yes. Of course.
And in somebody who is in that sorry to interrupt, Prabhu, but
Yeah.
somebody who is in that godly is somebody who's following a different religion, whose faith is in the mode of goodness, can they attain pure goodness in their own path? Is that possible?
Yes, of course they can. Yes, they can. But um um but Krishna consciousness is kind of the most easiest and direct path in reaching that stage. Because Prabhupada mentioned this, not knowing that in Christianity, because the knowledge and the process has generally become so watered down, it's hard to find association and scriptural texts and things that clearly and quickly lead one to that goal. So the examples of the saints are there, right? But in terms of the everyday practicing Christian, or Muslim or like that, their practice is more you go to church on Sunday and then do whatever you want to do because it's a matter of faith, not so much works. But Krishna consciousness, it presents both things that look, this is the godly life. This is how we practice Krishna. This is how we love Krishna. Practically speaking, how do we take his name? How do we offer food? So we can actually live the lives of those saints. It's there in the other tradition. It's completely there. But the priests today are not emphasizing those points. Like Prabhupada said, they've emptied out the music, the chanting. They're not going on the streets and glorifying the name of God. There's no, and the churches are empty, right? There's no life to it because the lack of inspiration and direction is there. Also, Jesus Christ himself said, and it's said in the Bible, he said, the audience that he was speaking to, he said that I'm not telling you everything because you are not ready. Right? You're not ready. I'm not telling you. So what's then if you are ready, then what's the next step? So Jesus Christ, he himself claimed that he's bringing people to a certain point.
Right.
The next step is Krishna consciousness. And that's why many Christians, they find themselves, Jews, Christians, Muslims, being attracted to Krishna consciousness. Because there is, Prabhupada said, only one religion. We call it, some of us call it Christianity, some Islam, some Vaishnavism. But he says religion is one, which is love of God. And there's one path, which is, devotional service, love for God, practicing devotional service. But we are on different levels of that same path. And so as we progress, all these paths, meet, and they are leading to the same goal. So he said, our goal is not to make Christians into Hindus, but to make Christians into better Christians, Hindus into better Hindus. And when they all advance, they'll come to the point of love of God, which is the Vaishnava teaching. It is the teaching of the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. So their advancement will bring them to Krishna consciousness also. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I think this is all. Perfect timing. So we will end here. Next time we will finish chapter 17, and we will also start preparing for our exam on the Bhagavad Gita soon. Rashmi Mataji is here, so she is facilitating that. If you are planning to take the exam, you can reach out to her, message her. And when you are ready, you'll need a proctor. You need to find someone outside of your family who can administer the exam for you. And just to make sure that you're taking it and it's all fair. We trust all the devotees, but this way there's some system to it. And then you will send the exam to your proctor. You'll take the exam and then scan it and send it back. And then we grade it. So, yes.
Dandavad Pranam, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Pranam.
Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.